Hey there. Let's talk about a word you hear literally everywhere. In sports, business, even politics. That word is momentum. We all kind of feel like we know what it means, right? But what is it really? And how does it work? Let's dive in.
Okay, to get our heads around this, I've got a quick little puzzle for you. I'm going to give you two totally different scenarios, and all you have to do is figure out the one big idea that connects them. You ready?
All right, first up, just picture this. A tiny little snowball right at the peak of a massive mountain. It starts to roll, just a little at first, but as it goes, it picks up more snow, it gets bigger and heavier, and it starts moving faster and faster. It's like it's building its own power, you know?
Now for scenario number 2, something completely different. Think about a new song from an artist nobody's ever heard of. At first, maybe a dozen people hear it, but one of them shares it, then their friends share it, then maybe a celebrity posts about it, and bam, suddenly it's everywhere. So what on earth does that snowball have in common with a viral song?
You got it. They both have momentum. It's that feeling, that sense of growing power. It's when something starts small and builds until it feels like an unstoppable force. And that is the core idea we are going to unpack today. So to really get this concept, we have to go back to where it all started. Long before we used it to talk about hit songs or winning teams, momentum was a fundamental idea in science.
In the world of physics, momentum is simply the quantity of motion that an object has. But that sounds a little technical, right? A better way to think about it is, it's a measure of how much oomph a moving object has. So what's the recipe for momentum? It's surprisingly simple, with just 2 main ingredients. First, you've got mass, which is really just a fancy way of saying how heavy or how big something is. And the second ingredient is velocity, which is how fast it's moving. And it's a simple formula. The more mass something has, or the more speed it has, the more momentum it's got. Think about a huge freight train moving pretty slowly. It still has an enormous amount of momentum because it's so heavy. But a tiny little bullet moving incredibly fast also has a ton of momentum. And here's the real key. Things with a lot of momentum are really, really hard to stop. Okay, so that's the science part. But how do we get from physics and freight trains to viral songs? Well, let's build that bridge and connect the scientific definition to how we use the word every single day. The whole connection hinges on that one powerful idea being hard to stop. A giant rolling boulder is physically hard to stop, right? In the exact same way, when a project at work is just on a roll, we say it has momentum because its success makes it feel just as unstoppable. It's like it's built up its own kind of force. Now that you've got this core idea down, I promise you're going to start noticing this word everywhere. Let's look at just a few places where you'll see momentum in action. Sports is the classic example. When a team wins a few games in a row, they're not just scoring points. They're building confidence. They're building belief. It creates this energy where it feels like they just can't lose. That forward push, that's momentum. You hear it all the time in business, too. A big, successful product launch creates this wave of positive energy. Suddenly, sales are up, the employees are fired up, customers are buzzing. All that success makes the next big move feel so much easier because the company has built up all this momentum. And this applies perfectly to politics and social movements. An idea might start really small with just a few people, but as more and more people hear the message and join in, the movement grows. It gets a force all its own, and it becomes harder and harder to ignore or to stop. In other words, it's gaining momentum. But, and this is maybe the most important thing to remember, momentum isn't permanent. It's not a magic spell. Just like that rolling snowball can be sped up or slowed down, momentum is something you can build, but it's also something you can lose. So how does that happen? Well, you gain momentum through a series of positive actions. Little wins that add up, a successful launch, or even just sticking with a new good habit for a week. And you lose it through setbacks, missing a critical deadline, a team hitting a losing streak, or just procrastinating until all that good energy fizzles out. Okay, so we've traveled from the science lab to the sports field and back. Let's put this all together so you can feel totally confident using this powerful word yourself. So here's the bottom line. You want to use the word momentum when you're describing something that's growing, something that's building on its own success. It's the perfect word for when progress feels powerful and just hard to stop. Just remember to pair it with an action word. You can gain momentum, you can build it, you can lose it, or you can have it.
And that brings us to one last thought, and this one's for you. Now that you really understand how momentum works, just think about your own life for a second. Your goals, your projects, your habits. Where do you need to create just a few small wins to start building a little bit of momentum?